What's up? I'm not sure if you guys can see me or not, or hear me. Let me know. So I am just finishing the field up here. We're side dressing, and I've got to drive manually, so it'll be a minute before I get to your questions. But I promise I will get to them. I'm also on my iPad mounted in the corner of the cab here, so hopefully that will work okay. Sorry I'm a little late. Yeah, in the wrong spot to start this. Timing. So we are at our farms down to Berkey, which is where I like to do these live streams because, well, cell phone service. I have it here. I don't back at Waldron, at least not very good. So. Let's see if we can get started where we're at here. Hi from Australia. Cool. It's got to be, I don't know, what time is it in Australia? It might be real early in the morning there. Good afternoon. Maybe 6 p.m. Central Time, or maybe he's just running. Yeah, sorry, Steven, I was just running late. How fast are you going? Right now, 8.2 miles an hour. Depending on the rate, where I'm at in the field, and how full my tank is, occasionally I can bump it up to 9 or 9.5, but the tractor won't pull this bar any faster than that, so. Good morning. Are you, yeah, Australia, yeah, okay. Watching you work with that NH in your last video, short sleeves gave me anxiety. Okay. I had gloves on most of the time. Morning. I was right. It is really hard to drive and read questions, especially, I don't think my iPad's charging very good. It's at about 10%, so I kind of turned the brightness down, which means I can't see it very good. That doesn't help. Alright, now we've just got a little sliver going back up. But I can auto steer it. Yeah. Okay, now where are we at? Good afternoon. How's the little guy feeling? Well, I haven't seen him since this morning, but I haven't heard anything, so that's a good sign. I think he's probably doing okay. He seemed much better this morning than he did yesterday, so it kind of sounds like it's running through the family. My sister got it today, so hopefully I'm not next. Is that the tractor you're playing with? Yes, this is the tractor I'm playing with. It is our 8R. It's an 8335R. I plant corn with it, and then we side dress with it. It'll get put on the green cart this fall. Get your bar calibrated or new day, it's working again. Well, so I calibrated it with the last load last night, or I had the weight from it, and then we weighed that tank this morning and it was way off. So I changed the calibration factor, although it made me feel kind of iffy to change it that much. And then when I checked it on one of the later loads, I was way off the other direction again. So I'm still trying to do a calibration about every other load and dialing it in, but we're getting closer. The last calibration load, not this tank, the tank 2 tanks ago, I was off by like 140 pounds or something, which is not bad. So I adjusted the calibration from there. I'm calibrating with this tank right now, so we'll see where this one ends up. Let me adjust the camera a little bit so maybe you guys can see it a little better, and maybe I can see it a little better. And anyway, so we'll get this, we'll do a calibration on this one, or we'll see how close it is. Dial it in, hopefully. I'm side dressing. Rain coming. I'm not sure if there's any actual rain coming or not. They had talked about it tomorrow, really for the rest of the week. Would be okay, but we're going to keep working until it does rain. So, hold on, my wife texted me. I gotta reply. I forgot. We are done with this field, so we've got to move, which means I have to drive down the road. It's also difficult to read while you're driving down the road. Anyway, I think I answered that calibrated question right, so we're getting there. It's better than it was. We're relatively close. Oh yeah, we're on the rain coming question. Do you plant wheat? Yes, we have wheat. How's the house coming along? All right, let's talk about that while we're driving. House has kind of stalled out here again, which I'm not thrilled about, but there's nothing I can do, so we're not going to get too upset about it. The concrete guys, specifically the wall guys, took an extra 2 weeks to get there that they were 2 weeks late, which threw everything else behind. And then once they got the radiant floor tubing and all of that stuff laid and were ready to pour the garage and the basement floor, that guy took about another week to get there after it was ready, which is, you got to expect that, especially when we're already off schedule. So the framing guys who are next on the list, they were supposed to come, I don't even know when they were supposed to come, a while ago. And they had told me they were chomping at the bit to get there, to get started on it. Well, I think the concrete guys took so long they found another job. So they didn't come last week. I was really hoping they were going to come this week, but I didn't see them there today when I left to come down here to Berkey, and that was at 1:30. So I doubt they came today. Maybe they'll come sometime this week, although if it's raining, I doubt that will be the case either. Probably should wait for that car. Probably gonna have to wait for a few cars now. Mrs. Baker asked about dinner. Yes, she did. But I'm not gonna be home for 3 hours, so she best just eat dinner. We're just going a little ways up here, so give me a second. Okay. Now I gotta get all my stuff set up. Different field. What's next? What else do you want to know about? What profits more money, corn or soybeans? Well, that highly depends on the year, the grain prices, how good of a crop we can grow. There's a lot of factors to that. This one? Yes. So when I change fields, I'm not going to show you because it'd take too much work to get the iPad down, but I've got to select the field in my monitor, and then I've got to load my prescription. So I'm variable rating the nitrogen here, just like I did with the seeding in the starter. And so I am loading my prescription. It's all wireless data transfer on this tractor, so I just got to go in and find it. And then once I have it loaded into the display, I have to select it. So that's what I'm doing right now. Make sure everything's set right. And then also make sure we're in the right field. Accept. And then the other thing I have to do is set up my guidance lines so that it knows which ones to follow. This is the south ends, and the main line go that way. So I'll select those and turn the steering on, and we were good to go. So, put the bar in the ground, click the switch, make sure our auto steer line is reasonable, and hit go. All right, we're off. Are those your own tanks or provided by the fertilizer company? Yeah, so we do not own our own tanks. They are provided by our retailer, and in this case, it's a different retailer than the ones we've been using before. We don't own our own tanks. We don't have a bulk tank on site, so we could buy our own tanks and use them. Just get them filled at the fertilizer company, but I don't think they would give us very much of a discount for having our own tanks. They're sort of expensive, and it's very rare that we have trouble getting tanks, although we kind of did today. But there's not really an advantage to it unless we would have our own bulk tank to fill out of at our farm. So, no, we don't have our own tanks. Hello from Denmark, welcome. Northeast Kansas, welcome. Australia, you're the second person from Australia. Rented tanks, yes. Well, I guess they're technically rented. They don't really charge us to use them. They may give you a discount on the Anhydrous if we had our own, like I said, but I don't think it would be much. Brakes. Sometimes the brakes make noise. Since we're a touch wet when we planted it, it's a little rough. It's a little rough. It'll be okay. Left a comment. What does that say? Shaking too much. Well, I will eat. I'm just trying something. Too rough. To make sure I don't eat what you want. Oh, yeah. You're fine, honey. If you eat the pizza, I will make a sandwich, and I will be just fine. Also, how's Brayson? Evening, Nathan. Get the Anhydrous bar working. We're broke down. That sucks, Scott. It is working. I'm not 100% sure we've got the rate dialed in just like I want it, but it is working, and we're getting closer. Well, look, right there goes my next tank. Sweet. Once I turn, it won't be so rough, and I can read better. little bit of a slow start, or at least it felt like a slow start. I did about 93 acres. We finished that field back at Waldron before we came down here to Berkey. But I've got 75, almost 80 acres done down here, which is good. So we're ending up, we're going to have a pretty good day. By the time I run this tank empty and do the next one, we'll have over 100 acres here, which will put us at 200 for the day. Anytime you have a 200 acre day, you're doing good. All right, get my auto steer set up here. Oh, we're dead on. And I need a drink. All right. Now, where are we at? How's the early beans doing? We just have had 4 nights of frost. Crazy. I saw that frost and was really hoping that we weren't going to get it because, yeah, it got cold. The one night, I think we only ended up down to 37, but for Memorial Day weekend, that's scary. So I'm glad that we didn't get it. And those early beans, I haven't looked at them for a few days. I need to look at them again, but last I looked, they were still there and looked pretty good. Although the later planted beans, which were still like the 17th or 18th of April, so they're still really early, they had kind of caught up with them, and there wasn't as much of a difference between them as I thought there might be, which was sort of surprising. But I don't know. They'll be fine. I just tuned in, was going to ask this morning if you had checked manifolds. I don't think so, but might be something to it. Yeah, so the reason that I didn't check the manifolds yesterday or wasn't concerned about them is because, well, this monitor over here, my nitro alert monitor was not showing me any trouble yesterday. Everything was working just fine as far as distribution and evenness between the lines. And if there was a problem in the manifold, you would expect it to be in one of them and not all of them. So I don't think that was the issue. Somebody in one of the comments on today's video, actually just before we started this, had mentioned that they had some trouble I don't know, maybe this year, maybe I don't even know when, that they had used tanks that had been filled on a different day, and the temperatures were drastically different when they got filled versus when they used them, which was my scenario yesterday, and it was causing rate issues. So I don't know why that would matter, but that seems to have been the issue. It really seems like the tanks that were filled last week on Friday or Thursday or Friday when it was hot were giving me an issue when it was cold on Monday. So why? I can't answer that. I don't know, but I'm kind of going with that was the problem. All right, David, I see your super chat, and I really, really appreciate it. Thanks for the comment. Keep up the good work. I will do my best. Any sugar beets around you? There are not any sugar beets grown around us anymore. I don't know that there ever were at our farm at Waldron. However, I'm not sure if my grandpa ever actually grew sugar beets. I think they did back in the 70s, 60s maybe. But not for quite a while. Hold on, I got a phone call I got to take. That's why I'm on the iPad and not my phone, because I knew this was going to happen. Hello. Yeah, you can bring the red truck over here if you got a way to get it here, or it's not a big deal. I can take the tractor back.
Well, I think that's probably around.
Okay. Yeah, that'd be fine.
I mean, do you want that, or do you want me to wait?
No, I'm not expecting you to wait. You just go. I'll bring the red truck home.
Okay. All right. Just want to check.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
All right. Bye. Okay. calibrated, future problem figured out. I think so. We're working on some calibrations. I think I kind of overcompensated first thing this morning, and we're getting it dialed back in. So I think we're close. All right, my wife said something else. We'll get to that. How's come your videos? I can see spray tracks at 90 degrees to the crop rows. Or is that not what the wheel tracks are? Well, good eye. You can, but only in yesterday's video, because it's only that one field. That field is where my test plots are, and I don't have end rows on the rows along the grass on the side where my seed warehouse is, and so it's really difficult to spray it without running over a bunch of corn turning on the ends. Plus, the entries with sprayer tracks are kind of at a disadvantage to the rest of them, so I had my dad spray it across the rows, and it's the longer rows in the field anyway, so it's easier to spray that way. So that's why, because we sprayed it across the rows. Is this your last trip in the field until harvest? On some of it, yes, definitely. On other stuff, I'm going to spray some fungicide, either at V5 or at Tassel, so one more pass with the sprayer. But if we're not doing that, then yes, this is the last pass. All right, he's good. Grayson is good. Did his swimming lessons this morning and has eaten a lot. Excellent. Little dude's feeling better. That's a good thing. All right, so this tank is about empty. So you guys are going to have to watch me change a tank. But we're going to run it empty. I just want to make sure I catch it when it does go empty so that I'm not wasting time here. Alright. What's up, Nate? Just finished your video from today on my way home from work. Thanks for watching. The insurance for bulk anhydrous ammonia is insane. Yeah. I can't say that's the only reason we don't have it, but that's definitely something that we've considered, or a factor. Have you or your dad ever thought about planting something unusual, kind of left field for your area as an experiment? Not really. The problem is we have to be able to make money on it, right? Unless you're talking about a really small area, or yeah, you have to be able to market it, and we don't have a market for stuff that's, you know, not around here. So there are a few specialty crop things that we could consider, things like spelts, which is kind of like wheat, but it's not. Or there's a little bit of a market for some barley now, it sounds like. There are some people raising some food grade beans, but there's just not a lot of that stuff around, and the risks in most cases are more than the rewards, so we have not done that. Tanks filled in warmer weather will have lower pressure once it cools down. I suspect the fill to pressure, which is affected by temperature. Yeah, so they fill the tanks based on the volume, or the gauge talks about how much volume, or it tells how much volume is in them, but they can only fill them like, well, it depends on the weather, but 85%-ish, 85 to 90. Are we empty? We're empty. Okay. Time for a tank change. Yeah. Well, that came out pretty close to what was supposed to be in there, so as long as the weigh's upright, we're doing good. Phil, welcome. Good morning from Perth, Australia. You might be the third person from Australia, unless you already commented. I counted it. Your irrigated land was corn last year. It's beans this year. Are you irrigating it, and what sort of yield difference do you expect to see? Well, that is the plan, is to irrigate the beans this year. There remains to be seen whether the weather dictates that we have to irrigate beans or not. And we certainly won't do it until later in the summer. One thing about beans that's different than the corn is that you can you don't have to irrigate it as early. You want beans to be stressed a little bit in June and early July so that they branch out and they don't get so tall. We want beans to set pods, not to get vegetative growth. The vegetation doesn't do anything for us, the pods do. And so you want to water them and pour the water to them when they're setting pods and filling pods and flowering late in the summer, but you don't want to put too much water on early or they'll get too tall. So yes, that is the plan. I'm hoping I don't have to start until August, but that remains to be seen. Weather dependent. Hello from Ohio. Hello from Ohio. I am in Ohio. Nice to see some field work. Go green, Al. Go State. Good job, honey. Glad the little man's feeling better. Yep, he is. Cannabis has a bit of demand. Yeah, I'm out of that market. No interest. Make that 4 Australians. There you go. Yeah. All right. Well, I would take you guys with me, but I can't hold it. It's too much. I can't read it. You can't hear me anyway. So you guys just watch me. I'll be over there. I'll be back in a minute. Unhooked. I'm gonna get turned around, back up to the full one. This is the last tank we're gonna get tonight. Our supplier down here at Berkey was, well, they were short tanks for one, and I don't like that. And they didn't have any full ones, so Phil's been hauling as fast as he can and barely keeping up, but they're going home since it is now 6:30, so we aren't going to get any more tanks today. All right, I got to go hook this one up. This one, this is the good one. This tank was brand new. It's the second time I've had it today, and that was the first it's been used at all, which is cool. So I might have to go out. Look at it. Alright, where are we at? Now I'm sure I'm way behind. Hold on. Refill and stop the calibration. Stop. So that tank, when we weigh it, it should weigh 6,175 pounds. Hopefully it does. Find out tomorrow. Okay, off we go. Where are we at? Comment. I don't know how you can do a live stream while putting on Anhydrous. A lot going on there. Yeah, well, auto steer it. That's how. It's the only way. Because once everything's working right, assuming it's working right, and I turn on all my monitors, it'll pretty much yell at me if something's going wrong, and it drives itself. So that's how we do it. Will small corn and no rain, will NH3 burn it any, or the corn won't get to the roots till the roots reach it, and by then it will be a bigger plant. So where we get a little bit of vapor loss, mostly turning on the ends when I first pick it up, we're going to burn some corn off a little bit there. But from what I've seen on the stuff we've already done, it's pretty minimal. It's really not that bad. So I'm not terribly worried about it. And as far as through the field here where it's sealing really well, I don't expect it to burn the corn roots at all. We're putting it in the center of the row, and so it'll diffuse, and you know, by the time the corn roots get to it, they should be able to handle it just fine. Yeah, not something I'm concerned about. Syracuse, New York, looks dry. Have you gotten any rain yet? We had, gosh, I don't even know what we had here. We had at Waldron a ½ inch on Friday and about 3/10 of an inch last Wednesday, so almost a week ago. So we've had 8/10 in the last week. I would assume something relatively similar here, but I can't say for sure whether that's the case or not. Either way, it is sort of dry. We could use some rain, but we're not terribly hurting just yet. What's a load of anhydrous cost? Right, so one of these tanks that you can't see at all, it costs, well, it holds roughly 3 tons of anhydrous, right? So that last one said 61.75. So we're just going to assume it's 3 tons. We buy it by the ton, and last week I heard the current price of anhydrous, if you just wanted to go buy some right now, was somewhere around $710 a ton, which means that tank would cost you a little over $2,000. That tank will cover a little under 30 acres depending on how much nitrogen you're putting on. We bought and paid for our anhydrous in January, which turns out it was a good move because that tank cost us about $1,500. We paid just over $500 a ton. So yeah, $500 for every one of these tanks we saved by buying it in January and not in June or May. So, I mean, this is the 4th tank today. It's $2,000. That's pretty good. We'll use a lot of tanks down here. I don't know how many. I can figure it out. I don't want to. All right. Getting it dialed in better. Yeah, we're getting it dialed in better. I need to wait on that last tank we just changed to know for sure, but I think we're pretty close. Why not upgrade to Pit Stop Pro? Well, so if you caught that conversation about owning your own tanks a little bit ago, that would be an advantage to upgrade to a Pit Stop Pro system, which for those of you that aren't familiar with it, John Deere has a system that will unhook and hook up those tanks from the cab where I don't have to get out. I just back up to it, it hooks up, it connects the Anhydrous coupler, and away we go. And it'll decouple it and hook up to the next one all by itself. You gotta have some attachments and stuff you put on the tanks. But it's a very cool system. I would like to have that, but we don't own our own tanks. And it's not cheap. They're pretty expensive to add, so yeah. If we had our own tanks, I'd probably look harder at it. Oh, sweet, I'm caught up. You guys need to leave me more questions. How am I supposed to answer questions if there aren't any questions? There's 150 of you watching. How do people get the crazy yields for corn? Are they feeding it nitrogen or something? I think that said. Ugh. Are they feeding nitrogen weekly or something? Oh, I see. Well, I don't know, right? Otherwise I would be doing it. No. So a lot of those guys that are in the corn growers contest, the David Hulas, the who's that other guy down south? I don't know, Don Stahl up in Michigan. They tend to be on sandier ground where they can spoon feed their crops. A lot of it is irrigated, so they're putting nitrogen or whatever other nutrients they need out there regularly with regular irrigation water, and they're paying a lot more attention to their crops. I mean, some of those guys are tissue testing weekly, if not daily, and they know what their plant needs when it needs it, and they're pushing the limits. So Randy Dowdy, he's the other name I was looking for. And they do a heck of a good job, but they're spending a lot of money to do it, and most of their acres aren't pushing the kind of yields that they're getting on their contest acres. Now, that's not saying they're not doing really well on the rest of their acres. You know, when you're setting a record of 580 something bushels per acre, if the rest of your corn is 350, it might sound like a disappointment, but that's pretty dang good corn, right? So, honestly, I don't have all the answers. I don't know how they're doing it, but I think that has a lot to do with it. Hello from Utah. We're extremely dry. Oh yeah, I've seen the drought monitor stuff for the western United States. It looks way dry out there. I'll read the rest of your question when I get turned around there. These rows are a little shorter. Alright. To the point, a lot of farmers are not only farming half their land, not enough irrigation water to cover all the ground. Wow, that's crazy. And to be limited on irrigation water it's a foreign concept to us. I mean, I could pump as much water out of that river that we pump out of as I could possibly use, and it wouldn't really make a dent in it. Hey Nathan, just got done spraying my corn, beans, peas, and pumpkins. My corn was definitely affected by that cold snap. No good. I noticed the last couple days our corn was a little yellow, and I think that has to do with the cold weather as well, but it should green up pretty quick with some sunshine and heat that we're supposed to get this week. Well, heat at least. There's a farmer out near my buddy's house who's an irrigated field. They let their 200 cattle out into the full, and 14 full corn and 280 bushel average. Nice. are your beans looking? Beans look decent, and we need to go do some more scouting pretty soon. Dad's been doing a little spraying, touching up some edges of some fields and stuff in the beans, but haven't had time to go out and look at the corn just yet, or at the beans just yet. So we will see here. Maybe next week we'll get a chance to go out and look at them. Or if we get some rain before it dries up enough to finish the side dressing. If I speed up too fast after a turn, it can't keep up with the rate. It yells at me. Glad your brother-in-law got home safe. Thank you. Yes, we are all glad he is home. He was home over the weekend here for Memorial Day, so I was glad to be able to see him and catch up. Just wanted to say it was neat seeing your boys spend time with their grandpa. Great memories for all of them. Yes, they love spending time with their grandpa. That is for sure. What else you guys want to know? I need some questions. We dribbled 28 on the dry land, and the rest gets put through the water on irrigated fields. Southwest Michigan is hurting for rain. Yeah, all of Michigan is hurting for rain. I know there's a spot there, kind of south of Grand Rapids, to Kalamazoo area that is really dry, and I feel for you guys. We've been fairly fortunate and been kind of in the middle, right? We're not on the terribly dry side. We're a little dry, but it's not terrible. Not hurting our crops yet. But you go farther south of us and they're sort of wet. I talked to a neighboring seed dealer this morning. He was looking for some replant corn, and he said they were trying to get in the field, but it was too wet. They had 1.5 inches of rain on Friday. Sidebar, you guys see? No, you don't. Never mind. There's a bag right there. This is where I put that plot down to Berkey. We're just getting into that, so we'll get that side dressed here tonight yet, which is good. Also, you may remember, I forgot these when we planted the plot, so I remembered to bring them all. All those bags are still there. We need to replace them with the actual stakes that will last the summer. 90s this weekend, down to Berkey. Your boy feeling better? Yes, 90s this weekend, which is not a bad thing. And we were down to Berkey, and my boy is feeling better. Brayson had a rough day yesterday, but seems to be much better today, which is good. Looks like Brock is coming along well. He found a perfect place to learn all aspects of farming. Well, thank you. He's doing pretty good. He gets a little surly sometimes, Brock. But no, he does a really good job. So it's been a little bit of a struggle here as we've been rained out. Which, I mean, we were rained out on Friday, and we were rained out a couple of weeks ago before we were able to finish planting. There's just not a lot going on some of those times, so it's hard for me to find stuff for him to do, and he wants to work, and I want to let him, but we don't have a lot going on all the time. So he hauled all those Anhydrous tanks that we used yesterday on Friday, so that was good. And he's supposed to come back tomorrow when it's raining. Sorry, somebody already asked. This sounds away from. Yeah, I'll get to that. What age were you when you knew you were going to farm full time for a living? Ah, good question. Excellent question. So, when I was a kid, like a young kid, I wanted to farm, no doubt about it. That's all I cared about. And then as I got older, and probably because my dad made me do stuff and I didn't like it, I kind of drifted away from it. There was a point in junior high and through high school when I wanted nothing to do with the farm, and I was going to go into sports broadcasting. I thought about air traffic control for a while. I had a number of other things that I was going to go to school for, none of which involved coming back to the farm. And then as I got towards the end of high school, kind of changed my mind a little bit, and I went to college for ag business management. There was a point in there when I was thinking about being on the breeding side of seed corn, or the geneticist or that kind of stuff, I decided I wasn't smart enough for that, or at least I didn't care to be smart enough for that. So that didn't happen. And then I went to college, and well, my dad kind of told me, he's like, I'm not going to hire you unless you have a college degree. So I went to college with the pure intent of coming back to the farm, never planning on getting a job anywhere else. And then about the last semester I was up at Michigan State, my dad figured out how much money I could make working for somebody else. He said, I'm not going to hire you. I can't afford to. You need to get a job. Well, okay, so that was when I got my job working for the seed company with Golden Harvest, and spent about 1.5 years or almost 2 years there before coming back to the farm full time. So how old was I, to answer your question? Probably between my junior and senior years of high school before I really made that decision. Back to where we were at. How do you come out with your application rate for Anhydrous? Wayne, we're getting it dialed in a little bit better. We've done a couple calibration loads today, and it's getting close. I think we're within 100 pounds on a tank of over 6,000 pounds, so we're close enough. What would be the next combine you get? Another Class 8 or Class 9? We'll probably stick with a Class 8. Actually, there was a part of me that considered going back to a Class 7. But that probably won't happen either. So we're thinking about an S780, kind of casually looking at the moment. That will probably get more serious between now and the end of the year. I don't think we'll do anything between now and harvest, but I won't rule it out. So we'll see. But we're getting there. What's the difference between 106-day corn and 105-day? If it's only 1 day, doesn't make a difference. Thank you. 1 day is probably not noticeable, negligible. Those ratings are all determined based on growing degree days that it takes to get to black layer. You may be talking about 10 or 20 growing degree day difference in 1 day. I don't even know if it's that much, to be honest. So it's negligible. The difference between 105 and 110 day is noticeable. A lot of times, if we get really late into the planting season, guys will switch from a later maturing corn to earlier maturing corn. As a seed dealer, I tell you, if you're not going to change at least 5 days of maturity, don't bother. So if you've got 110 day and you want to go earlier, don't pick 108, pick 105. If you've got 105, go to 100 day. That's the only way it makes sense and is really noticeable. You're gonna make me start coughing because I'm talking too much. All right. Doug, thank you. You guys are super generous tonight. Very, very much appreciated. I'll read your comment when I can. I promise. Which means as soon as I turn around here. What did you say in that super chat? Where did it go? There it is. Does your new bar put the nitrogen as deep as your old bar? We don't apply N that way out here, so it's all new to me. Well, probably not, to be honest. So they say that these 2510H bars can go about 4.5 to 5 inches deep. Our old bar we shot for between 6 to 8 inches deep, but the reason we were putting that deep was purely to get it to stay in the ground and to seal. And this bar does that, even if we're not putting it as deep. And what we found out last week was this bar's actually got a fair amount of wear on it, on the disc blades. If you guys saw that one video where I showed a comparison, there's 2 inches wore off of those blades, which means at least 1 inch on one side from the center, and it's not going as deep as if it had new blades on it. So we may only be putting it in the ground 4 inches, 3.5, but it's working. And it's working better than our shank bar did at 6 to 8 inches deep. So This thing is so impressive to me. I can't hardly believe how good of a job that it does. It's fantastic. It's nice the grain prices went up, but the input prices increased eating into that. Yeah, so it is nice to have some higher grain prices. Most of the higher, well, I mean, everything's up, but old crop prices are higher than new crop prices, which means the grain that we harvested back in 2020, last fall, is worth more than the corn we're growing right now. And nobody has any of that left, or nobody has much of that left. And so, and that's why the price is higher, because they can't find any of it, right? So it is a nice thing. Are the inputs eating into it? Well, they're starting to. Fortunately for 21, we had most of our inputs bought before the prices really took off on us. And so, while yes, fertilizer and chemicals have gone up drastically, they did it after we bought our stuff for this year, for the most part. So 21 looks like it's going to be a fairly good year, fairly profitable, especially if we can have good yields. The issue becomes in 22 when we have to buy those high-priced inputs, and I'm sure that our seed's going to go up with it. Land costs never come down and could potentially go up next year. So, yeah, it's going to eat into it a little bit. The question is, where does that balance lay? And while high grain prices are more fun, it costs more, and in the end, we end up gambling more dollars to make the same amount of profit, and it doesn't really gain us anything. So, good or bad is yet to be determined. We got a long ways to go, and who knows what's going to happen with grain prices from here on out. If we have subpar yields, the sky is the limit. Grain prices could keep going up, but if we have a good crop or a bumper crop, it's potentially could go way down, and the highs could be in, and things will settle back into a more normal price range. I don't know. All right, we got lots of questions. I'm way behind now. Why so early on Anhydrous? Yeah, I talked about timing in one of my videos last week, but we like to get it on when the corn is small. One, because we get it done. Two, because we can. And three, because if I run this corn over now, there's a chance that it'll come back and we aren't killing it. The growing point is still below ground, and so we're not killing it when we run it over. I'm not saying we aren't hurting it. We certainly are, but it'll still be there. And come fall, when we're harvesting it, you won't see all my turns on the end because that corn will be there. It may not have as big of an ear on it, but there'll be something there. So that's why. Will you try some strip till this fall? I would like to. I can't guarantee it's going to happen. I don't have a strip till bar. How about running a bulk tank, like 20,000 gallon, and filling your own small tanks? Yeah, the problem with that is, one, you have to buy the tank. They're super expensive. And then you have to buy your own small tanks, which are also not cheap. And then you also have to have the insurance and the liability of owning a big bulk tank. So there is some cost savings to be had from buying transport loads and buying it direct, but I don't know if it's worth the risk. And we'd have to fill our own tanks and do all of that. So I'm not saying it's not something we would consider, but it's not something we're going to do right now. It keeps jumping down to the bottom on me. I have to go back up and find my spot. Have you considered your fields by the creek, converting them to fully irrigated fields? Well, kind of, sort of, not really. I would like to have pivots and more irrigation, but pivots and more irrigation are expensive, and it has to pay for itself. And I'm not saying that it wouldn't, but when we're sitting here deciding, are we going to buy a new combine or are we going to buy a pivot, combine generally wins. Question. Oh, geez. I have no idea, Craig, but thanks for the question. How often does your dad remind you you've never lived through the tough times yet? That's what my dad always said to me. Well, we talk about the 80s less and less. It happens occasionally, but my dad is really easy to work with most of the time, and he doesn't try to control things as much as I hear from other people, which is good and bad. I appreciate it, but I also appreciate the guidance and help, and I want his opinion on things. So, not often, I guess, is the answer to that question. Come on. Why am I so far off? Sometimes my auto steer is dead on, other times it is off. I don't know why. I gotta shift it over. Alright. Stupid internet. My comment got sent to you twice. It's cool, Scott. Don't worry about it. Did you guys have to pick up extra land to farm when you came back in, or was there enough work for the extra man? We didn't have to pick up extra work. I had kind of been helping along anyway, and so it was kind of the situation, our farming situation changed drastically about the time that I came back to the farm, which is kind of what made it not necessarily feasible, but necessary for me to come back to the farm. This ground that we're farming in Berkey here is about not quite 600 acres, and I had another uncle that was farming it on his own, kind of. I mean, it was all tied together, but he was doing the work here, and my dad and Phil and I were doing the work back at Waldron, and he passed away, so we sort of picked up all of this. So kind of yes and no. We picked up some ground, but it wasn't necessarily to bring me back, and it was more so I came back because they needed the help. The plan when I got out of college and started my job with Golden Harvest was to be there for 5 years. I didn't make it. Plus, I picked up my seed dealership, which gave me a little bit of income on the side, so they didn't have to pay me as much. All right, sorry, I gotta drive here for a second. What is your dad's saying? Dad's best saying? Oh, them's that don't listen gotta feel. Oh, yeah. My dad's got several sayings. One of my current favorites is, don't worry, there's plenty of time to be disappointed in the weather yet. He likes that one. How did you succeed in planting in glyphosate-killed cover crops? So it planted fine. The issue that I have with that system is that it dried out so slowly. Those fields just stayed wet all spring. Even on the last day of planting, I almost got stuck planting one, and it was probably too wet for me to be out there. Now the corn all came okay, and it looks all right. I haven't side dressed it yet, but the planter was fine. I could probably set my planter up to work a little better in that situation, but I didn't have any issues to speak of. Whether we do a bunch more of that this year or not is still to be determined. Dad is ready to say, nope, we ain't doing that anymore. I would kind of like to give it a shot yet, especially knowing that if it gets dry this summer, that stuff's probably going to be some of our better corn, so that's a good thing. All right, we got some more end rows to do, and it's probably really bright behind me. So right over there, across this ditch that you guys probably can't see because it's too dusty, is the field that we finished up in when I started this live stream. Appreciate your videos, thank you. Who bales the straw for you? So it's not really for us, but we sell our straw out of the field to a buddy of mine who lives around the corner. He bought all of our straw equipment from us here about, I don't know, 10 or 15 years ago, and he bales all the straw, so. Uh-oh. Oh chance that my other son now might be getting sick. That's not good. We might be in for a long night. I hope we got the laundry caught up, honey. We fell behind quickly when we had to wash a couple pairs of sheets and towels and blankets and clothes and yeah. West Kentucky, thanks for watching, man. Will you change out the discs on the bar for next season? Would that do a better job? Well, we probably will change out the discs for next season. I didn't realize they were as worn as they were when we got it. But that said, it's still working really well. So it's hard to say whether it would do a better job or not. One thing we've thought about is those 4 rows that are behind the tires, of just changing those out more often and kind of moving them out to the wings where they can, it's difficult in conditions and we can wear them out there. We used to do that with knives on the old Anhydrous bar. We'd take the ones that wore a little faster behind the tires and move them somewhere else to wear them out. So that's standard practice, I guess. I don't know. Corn's looking good. The corn is looking pretty good. Still small. It's rough again. What is the best yield you've ever had? Best yield I've ever had. So in our irrigated corn, one year we had a field, the entire field, 173 acres, averaged 241, 237, something like that. It was phenomenal corn. That was just outstanding. So that's the best field average we've ever had. That said, last fall in the corn growers trial that I had, we had an entry go 273. That's pretty darn good. But the whole field wasn't quite so good, so I guess I would go with either of those two answers. Yeah, I'm going to get to that question about the difference between something as soon as I can read it. On the bright side, my iPad hasn't died. I should probably pull this up on my phone just in case it does. I can switch. That would be smart, wouldn't it? Don't hit the fence. We don't have all that much left in our tank here, so when it's empty, I'm going to have to end this. Alright. Is there a yield difference between, let's say, 105-day corn and 110-day corn, or does the variety of corn make the difference? Well, in theory, fuller season corn is going to yield more because you're taking a longer opportunity for it to add bushels to that ear, right? So the idea is that we plant 110-day corn to increase our yield over planting, say, 100-day or 103-day corn, which in theory won't yield as much. Now, in practice, what I have found is the variety makes a big difference and your area makes a big difference. So if I was to plant 115-day or 118-day corn here, not only would it be super wet in the fall, it won't produce and thrive as well as the 108 to 10-day or 105-day stuff does here. That's just our zone and our climate growing conditions dictate that we plant 105 to 110-day corn. Maybe a little bit outside that on the fringes either way. I remember when I was first starting as a seed salesman or with my the company, I went to a field day or a plot that we had up near Grand Rapids, Michigan, and that plot contained like 85 to 112-day corn, something like that. Ridiculous, huge, widespread. and the 95 to 100 day corn looked better there than the 105 to 110 day, and it just threw me because where I'm from, 110 day corn is better than 95 day corn. So why there did it look the opposite? Well, it's because it's not in its zone. The 95 day corn there, the 100 day corn is where it thrives, and the 110 day was not. So you got to plant corn that's designed for your area. All right. How many acres you guys farm? A little over 3,000. Did you get your rate controller working better? Yes, we've gotten it working better. We're still working on getting it dialed in and calibrated exactly right, but it is better. You asked for questions. I did, and now I'm behind. Is your brother going to be farming? I do not have a brother, so no. Brother-in-law, you might be asking, or I've talked about a few times, but no, he's a police officer and a Chinook pilot. Yes, Nathan, we're going to a Class A case combine. Nice. Cool. Sorry, Bob. Good. The laundry is caught up, I think. I think that's what that means. That or that was my son saying. So, Grandpa, my dad likes to tell the boys, yes, sirree, Bob Ryland, or yes, sirree, Bob Racing, and they say it back to him. And I go back and forth about 15 times each, and it's funny. Cute, I guess. Funny. Okay. I have no idea what that says, Esteban. What about the cornfield demo planted with Exact-Emerge? Yeah, so I have not gotten to that field to side dress yet. The 55 mile an hour scouting from the road, it's all coming up and it looks good. I really need to get out there and walk it and take a look though. It looks good. How's them early beans doing? Still alive. They look good. I need to go out and look at them again too. But last time I looked, the late planted on April 18th had pretty well caught up to them, so there wasn't a huge difference, which surprised me. Is your dad excited to help out with wood for the new house? And can he saw enough? Well, I think he does enjoy it. He does like doing it. He's got my floor pretty well ready to go. But as far as framing lumber and stuff, he can do it, but we don't have time because they need it now, and he's got to cut the boards up and we got to get them dried and everything, and we just don't have time. So he's starting to do some of that, cutting up some soft maple to use for framing lumber, for my basement and some of that stuff that we're going to finish ourselves in the next few years. So yeah, he is excited. That is fun. It's beeping because we're overlapping point rows. Yeah, it shut part of the bar off. It's fine. Do you have any concern with regards to soil health with anhydrous ammonia? We've used anhydrous as long as I can remember. I know guys talk about that, where the anhydrous isn't good for the microbes or the earthworms. Well, we still have earthworms, and it's all still there, so minor concern, yeah, but we haven't seen any issues with it, or at least issues that I know of, so it's hard to stop using it when it hasn't really been a problem. What's better, good ground or good farm management? Well, I don't know if that's an either-or thing there, right? You can't, it's hard to fix ground, but poor management can make bad ground or good ground bad in a hurry. So you really have to have both, or at least be decent at management with really good ground. The worst combination is poor ground with poor management, right? What's the acres of corn to beans this year? So surprisingly enough, I had one field, about 96 acres, that we ran corn on corn. We didn't have any beans after beans, but by doing that, I got the acres to within like 12. So we're almost dead on even split corn and beans, which is good. That's always the goal, to keep the acre split relatively even. Alright. not sure about early planted beans either. I mean, Scott, I didn't really say I wasn't sure about them. If I get the opportunity to next year, I'll plant 80 acres. They don't look bad. I'm really curious to see what the yield's going to be. We've got that giant component still hanging out there yet, but I'm impressed that they lived through the snow and the late frosts and everything else. So I said it last year, if they could make it through the May 9th frost we had last year, they can live through anything. And this year is kind of confirming that. So yeah, I got no problem with planting them early. We still got to figure out if they're going to yield any good though. What is the price difference, urea versus anhydrous? Honestly, I don't know what the price of urea is. I know what anhydrous is about right now, and I know what 28 is. And I actually did figure it out for what we paid for 28 back in the fall versus what we paid for anhydrous in January. The cost per unit of N was almost identical. The 28, the liquid, was just a touch higher. But I have no idea on urea. We haven't bought urea in a long time, so I can't really answer that. Usually, if you're looking at the same time, anhydrous is cheaper per unit of N than urea or 28, which is why we use it. Plus, it's how we're set up to handle it. A lot of guys do use urea. They'll usually broadcast it ahead of the planter, and occasionally guys will use, well, a fair amount of guys will use 28 side dressed as a liquid also. We just have always used the anhydrous. It's what we're set up for. It's what we're familiar with, and so that's what we use. Do people drill beans in your area? Yes, there are a lot of beans that are drilled either with air seeders or box drills in this area. So yeah, that's pretty common, although planters and using a 15-inch planter like we do is getting more and more common. Is glyphosate a hot topic in the USA? It will certainly be banned in Europe in 2 to 3 years. That's crazy. You hear about it quite a bit, but there's nothing wrong with glyphosate. Glyphosate, I hesitate to even say this, right? But glyphosate is one of the safest chemicals that we use. Like, people don't like it because it's the most common, and it's one of the, it's everywhere. So there's that, but glyphosate is not hurting you. It's not. I doubt it will be banned anytime soon. Although, government, so you never know. That would be a bad deal, though. All that it would mean is we have to use more expensive and more potent, dangerous chemicals if you ban glyphosate. That's what you'll do. All right. Our tank is running out, which not a bad thing. Do you do any soil or tissue testing prior to side dress, or just applying N per yield goal? I do not do any nitrate or nitrite soil testing. We do soil test stuff, not for nitrogen or for nitrogen application purposes, though. So, no, we're applying based on yield goal and how many pounds of N we need per bushel of corn produced. So that is a thing that some people have done, but very uncommon, at least around here. Down here in western Kentucky, most of the farmers put the anhydrous in the ground before they plant, but there are some I've seen in the last couple of years that the corn's up about a foot tall side dressing. Yeah, so there is some pre-plant anhydrous done around here as well. In fact, there was more of it done this year because we were so dry early than there has been for a while. We've gone away from it. I like side dressing. I like being able to put that N on as close to when the plant is going to need it as possible, because nitrogen is a leachable nutrient, and it can leave with water in the soil or moving through the soil, and so I don't want it to give it any more opportunities to do that than we have to. So putting it on as close to the time the plant is going to use it as possible, relatively, is a good thing, and that's what we've gone to doing. when do you plan on starting to farm yourself? I have no intentions of starting to farm myself. So, I have no reason to do that. I haven't talked about it a lot on my channel, but the way that our farm is structured and set up, we are a corporation. So I own stock in our farming corporation. So does my dad, so does my Uncle Phil, and so does another uncle. And the operation is its own entity. It's not any one person's individually, and there's no reason for me to ever branch out and do anything on my own. There is reason for me to keep buying more and more of that stock from my dad and my uncles, and I will continue to do that over a long term here. But as far as starting and finding my own ground, buying my own line of equipment, that won't happen. And I know that a lot of farmers and farms are set up that way, or people keep stuff separate, father and a son, or however they do that. I am very thankful that ours is not set up that way, and I don't have to worry about that. It makes it a lot easier for me to get bought into the operation. It makes it a lot easier for me to run decent equipment, not have to buy older stuff that's wore out, just to be able to say I'm doing it on my own. And, you know, I appreciate my dad and my uncles for giving me the opportunity to work here and to buy my way in. So, our setup is very good, and I am very appreciative of it. And it works better for them too, because they don't have to worry about cashing out or selling off all their equipment, trying to put values on everything. We just buy the shares of stock for what they're worth, and go that way about it. So, all right. How hard is it for a beginner to do farming? My father and me planning to buy a farm. What do you say we'll be able? Do you say we'll be able to make it? Well, it's not easy to do, and I wish you luck. But unless you've got it established, it's hard. And you gotta start slow, start small, and try and build your way up into it. You can't just expect to start with 3,000 acres and a full lineup of equipment and think you're going to do it. I'm not saying it can't be done. It absolutely can. People have done it. But that's one of the big issues it's one of the big issues in farming right now, is that the capital requirements to get started are enormous, and the barriers to entry, the ability to acquire land, is extremely difficult. So it's hard. It can be done, but it is hard. All right, guys. Hope your boys come into the corporation. Yeah, that's the goal. So I'm kind of unique, or it's nice that, I shouldn't say it's nice. It is nice, but it's a challenge as well. I'm the only one of my generation that wants to farm or is involved in it. So I don't have any brothers. My sisters don't really want anything to do with it. And my Uncle Phil, who farms full-time, doesn't have any kids. And so that leaves me. So it's going to get, consolidated into single ownership through my generation before I bring my boys into it, in which case it'll get split at this point at least 2 ways, right? And, and hopefully they'll continue it on. Whether they want to or not is totally up to them. I would love that, but I'm not going to force it on them. So we will see. Are you going to buy stock for your boys? Well, I'm not going to buy stock in the farm for my boys. I'm going to buy stock in the farm for me from my uncles and my dad, or maybe inherit it, however that happens. And then my boys can buy it from me when that time comes, hopefully in 30 years. But yeah, I would love to give them the opportunity, and that's the goal, right? I don't want them to farm because they have to farm. I want them to have the opportunity to farm if they want to. So my entire goal in life is to make enough money farming that I can continue to do it and hold everything together long enough for my boys to take over if they want to. So that's the plan. All right, guys, we're going to end it. I'm out of Anhydrous. I'm driving home. It's 7:30, not quite, so we've been on here for almost an hour and a half anyway. I've got an hour drive home, and then dinner, put the boys to bed, and and we'll be good. So thanks for watching, everybody. Hope you enjoyed it. There will be another video tomorrow, so check that out in the morning, and we'll see you guys. Thanks for watching. Have a good evening. Yep. Peace out, everybody.